Released as Dragon of Doom in English, because the early 2000s still thought adding of Doom to stuff was a cool thing to do, I suppose. This sees Masahiro Okuwaki and Nobuaki Kishima as director and writer respectively. This also marks the last time Yasuo Yamada voices Lupin in a major production, as he would die less than a year later and apparently wasn't in the best health even here. Granted, he voiced Lupin in the trailer for the next theatrical movie, as well as some adverts for ESO that may have been made after this. I'm not recapping ESO ads. They're on YouTube anyway if you want to check them out. Kikyo is our leading lady for this movie, voiced by Naoko Matsui. The ending theme is Omoide ga Anata wo Hanasanai, which according to my extensive research, okay fine, Google Translate, is Japanese for Memories Won't Let You Go. Goemon's sitting in on a kabuki play about his ancestor that commemorates 400 years since his death. Lupin and Jigen have no interest in it, so they're taking time out in an arcade. A group of ninjas then strike, clearly not part of the play. Goemon fights back and learns they're after Zantetsuken. They then chase Goemon into the arcade, prompting Lupin and Jigen to join the fight. Despite fighting the ninjas back, they end up running afoul of Zenigata. Zenigata then sets a giant crane machine he's christened the Lupin Catcher on the gang, managing to grab Lupin and Jigen. The pair manage to slip free and escape into the sewers. Zenigata charges off to set up blockades around the surrounding manholes, somehow not thinking they'll just escape from the same one while he's busy. The fortune teller warns Goemon that he will die a terrible, terrible death. She's then shot by Lupin, revealed to be one of the ninjas. Goemon tells Lupin that this is something he shouldn't get involved in as a shadowy figure keeps watch. Lupin decides to head to Paris instead, running a scan on their shadowy watcher. Thanks to some image-enhancing tech that'd make Blade Runner proud, Jigen recognises the face as a Hong Kong mafia member known as Chin Chin Chu. Heading to Hong Kong, Lupin infiltrates Chin's party aboard his luxury cruiser. Fujiko is among the guests, having heard of a treasure that's caught Chin's attention. As they search the ship, she explains that it went down with the Titanic. They run into Chin, who elaborates that said treasure was a dragon statue located in a hidden room on board the ship. He then tries to entice Lupin to work with him by telling him his grandfather was on board the doomed liner trying to seal it himself. When Lupin refuses, Chin summons his guards. Lupin escapes by setting off a bomb in his costume and fleeing through a window. Goemon is in the Iga Mountains in search of his own target. He cuts open a hidden compartment containing a scroll that appears to be connected to the statue. He's attacked by the ninjas again, including the man who was seemingly killed, Sumeno Gensai. Gensai demands the scroll, but his men get attacked by Kunoichi. Goemon recognises her as Kikyo, someone he grew up with. He also recognises that she herself has grown up. As they catch up, Kikyo mentions that she heard that Chin is interested in the statue. Lupin and Jigen have arrived in New York, borrowing a submarine to search the area the Titanic sank. Fujiko acts as their surface contact as they head to their target. Lupin notes that every 2 hours, a heated water surge passes through the wreckage. Upon entering the wreck, the remains of Chin's search party are discovered, likely victims of the surge. Lupin ends up falling through the floor as he explores, but Jigen's on hand to guide him to the target room. The room contains a skeleton of a man possessing Japanese weaponry. The statue is nowhere to be seen, so Lupin decides to take a bet on the surge. It comes at the cost of his oxygen tanks, but it carries him through and he spots his prize. Chin's revealed to be listening in too, but Jigen and Fujiko lose contact. Confined to the ship and with less than 10 minutes of backup oxygen, Lupin unleashes a bomb to escape. The problem is the force of the blast ends up disintegrating his diving suit. Fortunately, he's not too far from the submarine by that point, so he manages to avoid drowning. or worse, the water pressure reverting him to his late Series 3 form and it's sticking. Upon hearing Lupin's return, Chin moves into action, firing torpedoes. Lupin manages to counter them with his own torpedo, redirecting them back at Chin. If the blast damage isn't enough, then the net it unleashes on the propellers is enough to stall them for now. Goemon and Kikyo are waiting for the gang as they surface. Taking Fujiko captive, they demand the statue. Lupin responds by tossing it upward, which allows Jigen to disarm Kikyo. Goemon strikes at Lupin and his sword hits the dragon, causing a strange flash of light. Their fight's interrupted by Zenigata once again aiming to arrest Lupin. While he may have been worried about hurting Lupin in the past, he has the entire force open fire on Lupin this time. Zenigata's savvy enough to know that a hail of gunfire won't do Lupin in, proven right when he escapes in a duck-shaped pedal boat. Lupin soon activates a jet to speed up their escape. He also has Jigen fire a glue rocket at Zenigata to keep him in place. Chin then surfaces beneath his boat, putting a stop to his escape. Lupin's curious as to Chin's interest in the statue, but doesn't get any answer. Fujiko decides to switch sides, but Lupin and Jigen aren't granted that luxury. Facing death again, Lupin asks for the usual last smoke. Chin's actually wise to him, and takes what are likely trick cigarettes in place of a cigar. Unfortunately for him, throwing them in the water causes a smokescreen. Lupin and Jigen escape, but not before planting a tracker on Chin and imitating Gensai to cause confusion. Returning to Hong Kong, Lupin keeps tabs on Chin's moves. Fujiko also learns that the statue is connected to the scroll Goemon's holding, but doesn't learn what that connection is just yet. Lupin reaches Chin's mansion and prepares a Gensai disguise. He's able to trick the guards by claiming his ninja powers allowed him to get outside. Zenigata's followed him and saw him putting the disguise on, but doesn't get too far thanks to Lupin leaving him to the guards. Goemon and Kikyo also infiltrate the mansion. Kikyo starts getting flirty, slipping a hand to reach for something in Goemon's outfit, but he misinterprets and simply tells her to focus on the target. With Jigen's guidance, Lupin reaches Chin's location, but the room's empty. He dusts around and discovers footsteps leading under a bookshelf. Falling through to a secret room, Lupin spots Chin conversing with Fujiko. Chin tells her that the statue is a shape memory alloy that's apparently even stronger than Zantetsuken. The scroll is key to making a formula that will revert the statue to its initial form, which in turn has the formula for the alloy written on it. The statue was stolen from the Eager ninjas by the Titanic passenger, but now Chin has it, he plans to build a stealth bomber with the alloy. Chin starts getting too close for Fujiko's comfort, so Lupin moves in to help. Grabbing the dragon, Lupin and Fujiko dash back upstairs. They end up running into the real Gensai as well as Goemon. Due to Lupin having the statue, he's still an enemy in Goemon's eyes. Gensai doesn't care either way and activates a trapdoor leading to an alligator pool. Lupin instructs Fujiko to shoot Gensai with his gun. As Gensai falls, his sword cuts Goemon's shirt, causing the scroll to slip away. While Kikyo makes a grab for it, she slips away from Goemon and ends up falling into the pool herself. Jigen moves into action, storming the mansion. He indirectly helps Zenigata and aids the gang in their escape. Resting in a hotel, Lupin returns the statue to Goemon, as he just wanted to steal it for his grandfather's sake. They leave Goemon to grieve, though Lupin feels something was off about Kikyo's actions. Gensai is revealed to still be alive, knocking Fujiko out and taking her captive. Kikyo also survived, though she quickly reveals she's on Chin's side by stabbing Goemon. Retrieving the statue, she tosses an explosive the gang's way as she and Gensai escape. Fujiko wakes up to see Chin working to recreate the scroll's formula and reshaping the statue. The rest of the gang survive the explosion, but don't get too far before Chin's alerted. They find Fujiko, but it's actually Kikyo in disguise, and she and Gensai use shadow paralysis on them. Unmasking, she reveals that she told Chin about the statue, as it was her great-grandfather that was the Titanic passenger that stole it in the first place. Chin reveals the stealth bomb is complete, aiming to use its durability to wreck the world power's forces. He leaves the gang with a gas that will turn them on each other. Lupin urges everyone to hold their breath, but they can't manage for long and start to succumb. He manages to activate his own plane by remote control. He then fires a missile at the room, returning everyone to a point where they don't actually act upon their urges to strangle one another. The gang race through the complex and take down all resistance. Lupin also throws bombs around to destroy any data saved on the alloy. Gensai stands in their path despite time ticking down. Lupin steps up despite Goemon wanting to handle him. He manages to use his shoe to distract Gensai long enough to shoot him, putting him down for good this time. Chin begins his attack, aiming for New York and ending up over the Titanic's gravesite. America's Air Force tries to counter, but the stealth bomber's durability proves too effective. Not to mention the wings emulating Zantetsuken's sharpness. Chin contacts the president, mocking his efforts. Lupin then attacks the bomber, but as predicted, it's no worse for wear. Goemon steps up, confident that his training will be enough to slice the bomber apart even despite the alloy being superior. Lupin moves in on the bomber and Goemon strikes, but the wind resistance proves tough to attack from beneath. Kikyo opens fire on them, but Goemon manages to break through for an attack on the top. Kikyo sends a missile after Lupin's plane as Goemon makes his third strike. Running out of time, Goemon moves in for one last strike. Making his landing, Goemon successfully strikes the bomber in half this time. The missile ends up redirected towards it too, killing both Chin and Kikyo. Despite everything, Goemon still mourns for Kikyo as she falls into the sea. Zenigata has arrived too, not really caring that the gang just saved the world from a near-impervious stealth bomber. The chase continues once again as the statue sinks back to the depths alongside the remains of the bomber. Whatever budget problems were had in the art and animation department seem to be behind them now, as this looks good in both fields. A good number of fight sequences and all have some high quality animation going on. Goemon's final attack against the stealth bomber also had some nice movement to it. I will say I think it was obvious that Goemon would win out against the supposedly superior alloy to Zantetsuken, as, well, it's Goemon. He's been training for this. We've seen some of it in action in past movies and episodes. If he's told he can't cut it, then he'll cut it. Certainly a far cry from the early days where he had trouble against cutting up metal at any rate. I like having Kikyo there as someone from Goemon's past, and she'd obviously know how he is around women. Also an interesting angle of having him be something of an antagonist, even if in his eyes he's working for a greater good. Kind of a pity we didn't get more of Goemon and Kikyo together, to be honest, just to give them a bit more to their relationship, at least in the movie itself. Chin was also a decent enough character. Not the deepest, but felt like a callback to some of the older villains, probably helped by Junpei Takiguchi voicing him. Rather poetic that he's there for Yasuo Yamada's first and final times voicing Lupin, honestly. Overall, ending being a bit predictable aside, certainly not a bad movie for Yamada to go out on. Next time, the gang deal with a doomsday cult and a high-tech tower bidding farewell to Nostradamus. Until then,